Okay, we have started our How to Study Your Bible study at Women's Life Fellowship. And so we've started teaching you the process that we're going to be going through. So what I wanted to do here today is just kind of show you a little bit of the practical side of what this looks like for me. What I've decided to do this year is I want to try to do this type of Bible study, this method that we're talking about, through 3 books. And I just feel like the Lord's led me to do these 3 books. The last few months of 2014, I was really praying about what I wanted to do, and this just kind of kept coming up. So I'm going to try to go through 1 Peter, 2 Peter, and Colossians this year. They are smaller books, so I'm kind of thinking if I can give about 4 months to each book. But I'm not going to limit myself to that. If I jump into 1 Peter and it really requires 8 months, then I'm going to take the 8 months needed on that because I really want to give the adequate time needed to Bible study. So this is what I did. I once again got myself a 3-ring binder. I'm big into these. Put it with paper and got a couple different sections here. And this is what I've started to do. In my first week here, what I've done is all I'm doing is I'm just reading the text. That's all I'm doing. I decided to start my reading of my text in my Holman Christian Standard version. Really would not matter what version you choose to start in. So I decided to start in that one. And on day 1, I just put here, I read it aloud 1 time in that version. And then I listened to it aloud. I used my iPad, sometimes I use my phone, and on YouVersion, and I listened to it while I'm looking at it. I did that actually in 2 different versions that day. And that same day, then I read it silently again, the whole book of 1 Peter in my Holman Christian Standard. And that's what I did that day in my Bible study. Then day 2 came along, because actually I just started this week. So day 2 came along, and what I did again was I read 1 time all the way through 1 Peter in my Holman Christian Standard, and then I listened to it another time in my Holman Christian Standard on my YouVersion app on my iPad and stuff. Something I just did to the side just because I'm trying to see as many details as I can about this in case I ever teach this in a class, a study on 1 Peter. I just put to the side that there's 5 chapters and about how many verses were in each chapter. There's 105 verses in 1 Peter. And then I also, I don't know, I just did this. I put the listening time about how long it took me to kind of listen through this. So as I try to do that on different days, I can kind of gauge my time. Then what I did on the 3rd day was I read it through again, but I went to a second section in my notebook. And I'm going to make sure there's lots of paper there because what I'm going to do is I'm writing out the book of 1 Peter on loose leaf paper. And what I'm doing is I'm leaving a blank in between because as I go deeper into my study of the text, I'm going to want to have some areas to write some notes out beside those words of that text. And I just don't have that much room in my Bible. So I wrote out chapter 1, which took about like 20, 30 minutes. It took a lot longer than I thought. And I left a blank between each line so I can put some study notes there when I get to that point. So that's where I am in this first process of going through a book of the Bible like we're teaching you to do. So while you're going through this study with us, be thinking and praying and asking the Lord what book of the Bible He would want you to go through and try this process and what He wants you to learn as you learn this process with us. So go ahead and be thinking about that, and then you can try setting up your notebook for the book of the Bible that you want to study.